Wow. All
Okay.
right, so
The-
let's do it.
Fun.
The audios are recording and the Zoom feed's recording. So we play it, like I said in the email, we just play it by ear and see where we go. I've got a couple of points and you can kind of guide the show if we're going in a wrong direction or something you need to plug, Matt. But
Well, no one's ever accused me of not having anything to say, so.
Why you're here.
Well, welcome everybody. It's No Driving Gloves again. It's an afternoon recording for us, so that narrows it down to those of us with really flexible schedules, John and Sean. And we're kind of happy. We've pursued a little bit, and we have Matt Farah joining us from the Smokin Tire, smokingtire.com. I mean, just about everywhere, even Blip Shift with some T-shirts. Thought about that. Even
What's
thought about
happening,
that
guys?
for a background. How are you doing tonight, Matt? Or today, Matt?
It's early for me. Yeah, for me it's like lunchtime. But no, all is right. Well, not all is right with the world. We live in the other timeline. But besides that, everything is fine. It's funny that you usually start off by saying it's an afternoon show. Usually, if I make that disclaimer on my show, it means we're drinking.
I can go make a gin and tonic. It's not a problem. I mean, it's 3:00 here, so I'm well past the God, I shouldn't be drinking at this hour point.
No judgments from my state.
Yeah. I mean, if y'all want to turn this into something special, we can turn it into something special.
I still have to go to work after this. But
You
by all means, yeah.
Are you recording, or is it road and track, or is it TV?
After this, I have a meeting at a restaurant that wants to host socially distant cars and coffees and have me be their ambassador.
Okay.
And then I have a podcast at my studio with Ed Bolian calling in at 5.
He's on our. I'll be honest. He's on our short list. I'd love to get him because he's only 2 hours away and need to drive over and see his garage.
Yeah, he's close enough.
I don't think it's that hard. I think he's got free time like the rest of us.
Yeah, he's close enough where we could actually go over and make a day of it.
Yeah.
Totally worth it. So, let's just lead in with socially distanced cars and coffee. And one of the topics, obviously, that everyone's talking about right now is how do we get back to whatever the new norm's going to be? And what do you like? Something like a cars and coffee event, or just like a weekly cruise event that happens in 5,000 cities all over the country or all over the world right now, Matt. How do we get back? What's your vision of the new normal? Or are we even close enough to that to talk about it yet?
Well, I mean, first off, anything I say about this, let me just leave a disclaimer that I'm not a doctor or medical
It's an opinion.
Okay, so this is my opinion. I believe that of all the things that we can't do right now, and all the people that are being hurt by this situation and people that are dying and people who've lost their jobs and blah, on and on and on, all the negatives, there are many. One of the very few positives, at least where I live, is it is much easier to drive your old cars. And the people who have old cars are really taking the opportunity to enjoy them. I mean, if you go out in the canyons, people are driving their cars. On the weekends in Malibu, I've been out to this place, the Malibu Kitchen. I call it Bill's. I go there and I get coffee and sandwiches and I hang out. And it's been interesting, actually. There haven't been any official cars and coffees, but what has sort of happened is Bill's is in this shopping center and all the stores are closed. But he, as a restaurant, is allowed to be open for takeout. So, you can get your takeout sandwich or whatever. And people have sort of spread out throughout the parking lot. And, nobody's perfect, but people are wearing masks and doing a fairly decent job of not getting too close to each other and having a bit of a gathering. And you're driving your own car on the road. That's an acceptable activity. And I think everyone is trying their level-headed best to try and enjoy some of their life, enjoy some of the summer, enjoy their old car, and be responsible about it. And in certainly in my case, patronize a restaurant that has seen a pretty rough year. Not and before coronavirus, Bill had to deal with 10% of Malibu burning down. I mean,
It's very true. Yeah, it's very
Bill.
true.
Yeah, Bill had to deal with the fires last year, and the population of Malibu went down by 10% in 24 hours. And
Wow.
so, that's a big deal for a little local business like him. So I think
I
it's
see a
very,
lot of him on Instagram and that. I of course listen to Spike Ferrison too, and I
yeah.
know you recently chatted with him. And Bill seems to have a good little thing. And watching the Instagram posts and the photos, you guys in California, I don't know if you're stricter there, you're taking it more seriously, what the group is, but you're doing a lot better than the photos of the car groups getting together around Birmingham, Alabama, and that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's
I
it's
saw
crazy.
that story. What was that story of like topless Jeep weekend in East Texas or something over the weekend? It was literally like some Jeep jamboree, but with boobs. It was crazy, and so, yeah, no, I do. I actually think, we've seen, there's been a few pictures and videos, especially from Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach seems to be the outlier in the California area of, that's like our Florida, I think.
Wow.
And so there was there was these reopened protests, and there was a bunch of this kind of stuff, and in LA, where I live, in Venice, Malibu, I think we are taking it seriously, and we're trying to be good neighbors and good people as best we can, and everyone's just doing their thing as best they can. And the good news is, hanging out outside is a pretty low risk activity. You know what I mean? As long as you're not like hugging everybody. That's a pretty low risk thing. And so, especially at the beach, we're at the beach, there's a big wind. It's like a 30-mile-an-hour wind out there. So that's a pretty okay thing, as long as you're not too stupid about it. But the little bit of rainbow in this is that the roads are open, the traffic is light, and it's a great time to enjoy your old car, because you're not going to be stuck in these terrible, notorious traffic jams.
It was a good time for Morgan to get you and Spike that car, because on a normal LA day, I don't think your reviews would have been as glowing. I've played with Morgans over the years and things like that, and it's not a car for sitting in traffic, no matter what era or how many wheels. But
no, you want to be moving, in that car. But honestly, my 911, my Safari 911, as amazing as that car is, and is amazing, that's really a terrible car to be in traffic in, because it's got manual brakes, it has no power steering, and it has a very like a heavy duty race spec clutch and a light flywheel, and so it really requires a lot of people. I have a Lamborghini Countach, not to just start bragging about my own cars, but a lot of people are like, oh my God, this Countach, it's got this reputation for being very difficult to drive and very clunky. And I've not found that to be the case at all. I think that my 911, which in fairness has been heavily modified, requires a lot more muscle power to drive than the Lamborghini does.
Well, now that we have you here, obviously, I mean, you can see what I have behind me right now. I wanted to touch on the Safari 911, and are you daily in that thing, or is it more of a toy?
Well, no.
Well,
no, because that's not really a question with an answer. I have press cars, so every single week, I probably 40 to 45 weeks out of the year, I have a press car.
Gotcha.
Right. And so I have a modern car, that I daily drive. Right. And so when I don't have that, the 911 is as close to, quote, my car, as it
Gotcha.
gets, so, but I also have my Vespa. I have a Vespa that I love, and I haven't ridden it so much because the traffic has been really light, and it's typically like my traffic beater. You can lane split in California legally, which is the best. I mean, it's lane splitting is like legalizing weed. It's like, it's so civil once you just do it. You know what I mean?
It doesn't freak you out, because I've never been on a bike in an area where you could, and it just, to me, I would be so worried about people not seeing you.
Well, they don't, but if you ride with the knowledge of this person doesn't see me, just because they don't see you, it's sometimes better if they don't see you. Like, that's what nobody really wants to talk about. Someone who sees you might do something with their car that they wouldn't, you know what I mean? Someone like most people, they'll continue on the path that they are going, and you can get by, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
And there's these lunatics that'll lane split at 60, 70 miles an hour. That's not me. I lane split when the traffic is going slowly. But
coming up to a stoplight or something like that.
Yeah, or even just generally just slow traffic if moving. But I'm on a Vespa. It's small. I'm not on a Harley. If I was on a big hog, you couldn't do it. And I think the difference, the perception of lane splitting being scary runs counter to the science of lane splitting, which has proven that lane splitting is significantly safer than non-lane splitting, because the vast majority of car on motorcycle accidents happens when a car rear ends and crushes a motorcycle at a traffic light in between it and the car in front of it, because they don't distinguish that there's a motorcycle there. They can't see them. And so they crunch them. And that's the most common car on motorcycle accident. That's not to say that you couldn't get bumped from the side. You could. But statistically, if you eliminate those rear endings, because when the cars are stopped, the motorcycles go to the front, right? So you have a cushion of cars. You're not going to get rear. If you eliminate that, you end up in a place that's much safer. And if you allow lane split, motorcycles don't take up space. You lane split, it's like having a jar full of rocks and pouring water through it. The water just goes right through. It doesn't hold anything up. So lane splitting is incredibly civilized when it's done in a civilized way, and it allows me and anyone else who chooses to do it responsibly. It allows me the ability to get around the city in a predictable way. That's really the tough part about LA, is the unpredictability of it. And I'm really picky about being on time, which and so it's the ability to say I need to go here, and here, and I know how long that's going to take, no matter the time of the day. It's important.
Yeah, and I've seen LA at its best and LA at its worst, and like I literally did an event out there. It's been several years ago with Porsche at LA, downtown LA Porsche. It was an extended test drive event that I was leading when the God, I can't remember what it was that was coming out at the time. I think honestly it was the 991 was coming out at the time. And we had all of these VIP customers coming in, and it was like a Wednesday and a Thursday midday, dumbest time ever to be downtown LA. And we couldn't do anything. We literally, like, if it had been a Ducati test drive or something like that, it might have been okay.
Yeah, no, if you're going to plan a car launch or a test drive event in Los Angeles, you really need to pick somewhere outside of town.
Yeah, it's not something you want to launch from the dealership itself. And I was like, as soon as I heard they were sending me there to lead that, I was like, that's not going to work.
No, and
that's going to be bad.
Yeah, and the everyday hustle of getting around the city is very annoying, and we contrast that. Okay, I'm not just bitching about LA, because I do like it here, but contrast that with where I live in Venice. I can walk to a lot. I mean, assuming pre-coronavirus, I could walk to 50 restaurants, 25 bars, and any my grocery store that I go to now is a little local grocery store. It's the best. I love it, and I love that. And we have our roads. We've got the Angeles Forest, and we've got Malibu, and we've got the Antelope Valley stuff, and the roads to Big Bear, and so. Other than being in Switzerland or something, we've got like the best driving roads, in the country here in California. And
yeah, it's insane.
And so,
I don't know if you remember it or not, but as several years ago, I actually ran into you on the road going up to Baldy. You were out there testing Izzy's Porsche.
Izzy Moto, yeah.
And I was testing the 15 SRT Charger.
Right.
And just came around the corner, and you're just sitting on the side of the road in Busy's blue Porsche. And I was like, I'm driving by, and then I was like, holy shit, that's Matt. Hey, how's it going?
You caught me in my native environment.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
Yes. I am a human who owns GoPros and uses them on mountain roads.
not afraid to use them at all. Going back to the area of the world that you live in and the just unbelievable level of incredible roads that you have. I mean, do you have a favorite? Like, is there a favorite road that if someone is flying into LAX and they're a petrol head in any way, shape, or form that Matt Farah has, like, what's the recommendation? Where would you recommend they go, and where would you recommend they stay the hell away from? That's awesome.
The real question is,
I locked him up. Woo!
No, bro, the real question is, how do you trust which one I say? Because if I'm honest and I tell you where to go, I go, God. Now you're there, and now I've blown up my own spot. Now,
no.
If I told you where not to go, like, what if that was where I go? I don't want you there.
This turned into, where's your favorite fishing spot?
No, exactly. That's the problem. But you know what? It's not really a problem as much as you think, because here's why. You should never ever underestimate either the laziness or the stupidity of people. And my anecdotal evidence for the laziness part of it is that for years I was told that I should just not go to Tail of the Dragon because it's crowded and stupid. And there's no point in having a road as good as Tail of the Dragon when it's always as crowded as it is. And
I haven't found that to be the case.
Well, I was going to say, when I went to Tail of the Dragon, I did the thing that I would normally do when I go to any road, which is I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I look up when the sunrise is. I get up before that, and then sun comes up, and 3 minutes after that, I'm on the road. And that to me is the most logical, obvious course of action if you want to enjoy something, right? Yeah. Like that. And so I did that on Tail of the Dragon, and I got 3 runs the whole way before I saw like another car.
Yeah. And last time I went through there, I got there at 7 o'clock at night, and I drove until 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to do night,
I mean, like the headlights coming the other way.
Yeah. I've attempted to do a couple of night shoots up in the Angeles Forest, and I really enjoyed how much road we had to ourselves.
Right.
But I hated everything else about it. About doing night shoots.
Oh, well, the lighting that you'd have to bring in. Literally, I wasn't doing
I was like literally like driving into spotlights.
Right.
Like it was horrible. Yeah.
I was just driving my Alpha having fun, man. I wasn't worried about lighting anything.
Yeah, no, you know what's funny is the canyons are just far and annoying enough to get from my house that I don't like go up there at night, or I don't it's not on the way to anything, it's right. I have to go to the canyons. It's probably, I mean, in normal circumstances with traffic, it's an hour and change each way from my house. So I go to film, and when I'm up there, I do some extra driving and I cruise around and have fun. But I'm pretty much only up there on shooting days. Yeah, and when it's time to exercise my own cars, I typically just will drive them to Bill's and drink coffee. Right. Yeah, I get to spend so much time caning cars in the canyons that unless I was really the keeping up with the Joneses, buy a new GT2 every year, there wouldn't be anything I could own that would really be so rewarding to go through the canyons in, you know what I mean? So totally. My Porsche is terrible in the canyons, but it's a good everyday car because of the suspension travel and potholes and stuff like that. And my Lamborghini is a very special thing to cruise around in at 7 or 8 tenths, or to take on a short weekend road trip, or to bring to a car show or whatever. It's lovely to drive. It's a phenomenal driving car, but it's not the kind of car where you want to go out and cane it at 10 tenths, in the Angeles Forest. So I usually, sir, I save the forest to answer your question. I have a loop that goes through the Angeles Forest that I like a lot. It's made of like 4 roads. It's not one road.
Okay.
If you can drive it. You can drive it virtually I see you're sitting at some sort of sim setup. If you play Assetto Corsa by any chance,
Yeah.
you can download the LA Canyons mod for Assetto Corsa, and it is incredible. It's so good. It's so realistic, and the guy who made it did such an incredible job. There's some fun smoking tire Easter eggs in there, actually, because he's
Oh, cool.
and so there's like my old Fox body getting pulled over by the cops on the side.
No.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
Oh, dude,
But-
yeah, I've actually seen it. I've never downloaded it. But
No,
now I'm
do it.
definitely
Oh,
gonna download
definitely.
it and
It's
do a
so
live
dope.
stream with it.
Yeah,
That's cool.
one of the things that I would do, my friend who lives a couple houses down from me has a pretty sick sim. It's not motion, but it's got, the right hardware and whatever.
Yeah.
And we go over to his place, and he downloaded Assetto Corsa, the Canyons, and he downloaded my Countach in the game. And so we go over there and just start drinking whiskey, and we just like drift the canyons virtually, drunk in my Lamborghini, like I'm like Vince Neil from Motley Crue or something, and it's
no
great
way
fun.
to digitally kill anyone, which is a good
Yeah.
That's-
We keep it safe. We're in the dude's living room. It's all
absolutely,
good.
absolutely.
But he's got the with his sim, he's got the shifter, right? The proper
Oh, yeah.
shifter. And
Oh
you
yeah,
can,
we got an e-brake, we got a gated shifter.
yeah. So you program it because it's a dog leg for the Countach.
Yeah.
And it's great. It really, the dynamics are pretty good, and I have a good time really virtually beating the crap out of my own car.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Cool
Yeah, it is.
So
I drive that car. I drive the car a lot, though. I mean, I don't baby the car. I drive the car.
Excellent, as you should.
I get the feeling a little bit, and there's a publisher out there who does a magazine, and he's kind of, at one time, he was really known for trashing a car, then actually ending up with a car, talking about it great, and then when he would go to sell it, the market's a little bit harder or stronger. I kind of get the feeling, everybody always talks about how bad Countaches are. I've driven a couple over the years, and everybody who's always let me drive one, it's always they're worried about the clutch. But other than that, they're a reasonable car as long as you're not parking or in a parking lot, I guess. Sounds like you're
fine. I'm not that concerned about it. I would be concerned. The only place I'm really concerned about there's nothing wrong with the clutch. The clutch is just a clutch, but if you blow it, you have to take the engine and gearbox out from the top. So a new clutch is $20,000. So there's nothing wrong with the clutch. It's just the fear of blowing it. Now, I got very fortunate when I bought my car. It came with a brand new clutch. I bought the car in the middle of a service, and the agreement that I had with the seller was that I would, he would pay for the service, and I would be delivered a perfectly functioning car that included a brand new clutch. And so while I totally understand your perspective, John, I know with 100% certainty that if you give me a car that's got a brand new clutch in it, that's a lifetime. That we will not need another clutch.
I was just saying you're building up the market so that when you finally decide to part with it, that there's going to be, people say
I'm not selling.
That car's not going anywhere.
That thing is awesome. Are you kidding me? I would sell it if I didn't enjoy it. I bought a DeLorean in 2013, and it was an amazing one. I mean, it had all the things you'd want in a DeLorean. It had. And I bought it for what seemed like a lot of money, and I was able to turn a small profit on it. But I ultimately I loved how it looked. I thought it was real cool as a thing to bring places, but it drove shitty, and I sold it because it drove shitty. And with the Countach, fortunately I got to drive this very car quite a bit as a review like 5 years ago, so I did know already that it was going to drive good, and but because it drives so nice and because it works, knock wood, because it works so much better than I thought it would, there's no reason to get rid of it. It's the most comfortable Lamborghini sports car I've ever sat in. The air conditioning works. It has a trunk. My wife likes it. Everywhere you go with it, you win. You're the winner at any
Right.
car show. It doesn't, here you go to a car show here, it's Senna's, Koenigsegg's, it's and you win. You're the winner. And
Right.
so it's just, and at the same time, once it's warm, because it does take quite a while to warm the oil up, probably like 20-30 minutes of driving. So once it's warm, oh man, is it phenomenal. It rides beautifully. It's a really nice thing to use, and miles are cheap. Driving it is cheaper than not driving it, actually. And I've had it for 18 months, and I have spent $0 on maintenance. And I
Wow.
put 8,000 kilometers on it.
That goes against what you'd normally read about
Yeah.
that car. Yeah, it totally
Yeah.
goes. That flies in the face of what everything that I've ever read about a Countach.
If you ask Harry Metcalf, who drives his Countach a lot, he says that driving it makes it work properly, and that when you drive them, you don't need to maintain them other than change the oil and shit.
I think
that's
it
awesome.
goes.
You got me. Dump it. Yeah, I got. How far did I get? Like 18 minutes?
You got
almost
solid
30
20 minutes in. Yeah, 20.
I got pretty good. Sorry.
Oh. I was going to say, the thing with a Lamborghini is it goes back to expenses proportionate to income. A 20K for a clutch, and Countaches are, again, what, $250,000, $300,000 cars. So it's, what?
It is proportional.
A tenth of the
It's
price of the
proportional.
car. I did a $1,300 clutch in my $6,000 CRX,
That's a good point.
back in '89.
Yeah, it's a very good point, John.
So
Yeah.
it's just, I think, $20,000 clutch, or a $25,000 Testarossa engine out, timing service sounds ridiculous. But again, I'm a big CRX guy. $600-800 do a timing belt on a CRX that a tenth of the value, or it's what kept Espadas in the dirt for years, and
Right.
that is it wasn't viable to fix them. So I totally get what you're saying. And
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I had this Lexus LS 400 that I got it with 900,000 miles on it, and I got it to 1,000,000 miles. I sort of shepherded it along, and we had to do 2 timing belt services, and they were $980 each for a car I paid $1,400 for.
Wow.
You got rid of that. That was one of my questions I had, because I know you've really, you've decided to build this 120 car garage, but you've really downsized your collection. You just have the 3 sports cars in a mini minivan, right?
Well, you got to understand something. I started this garage project in 2015. I did not anticipate it would take 5 years. I thought this would be a quick thing. I thought, and I had a peak. I think at a peak I was at like 7 cars in 2015. At the time, I had to like fire sale like 3 cars because I lost my spot, and I decided to build this place. And so I've got the Porsche, the Lambo, I've got the Aston, and the Delica, the Mitsubishi Delica. And then for the time being, I'm babysitting my mother's Jaguar F-Type, which my dad and I got her for her 70th birthday.
Nice.
I probably shouldn't have said you can dump button the year.
Sorry.
So we got it for her, and then she proceeded to not drive it hardly at all. and they had a long cold winter out there in Connecticut, where they're from. So they shipped it out to me. And so me and my wife have been putting some miles on that Jaguar F-Type, and it's quite nice. I like that thing.
They sound glorious. They sound absolutely glorious.
Yeah, this one's a 6. It's a supercharged 6, so it's not. I mean, I can't even imagine. My mother would have sailed the F-Type R right off a cliff if you gave her a 550 horsepower car.
The V8 sounds so good.
Yeah, it's definitely the most obnoxious V8 you can get in a car right now. So that's all we have for the moment, and I don't really want to buy any more cars. I have a hard time. It's always tempting to like look on Bring a Trailer and see something I want, and I definitely have a short list of cars I would like to own at some point. But honestly, I have a pretty tough time just driving the cars that I've got. I only have one ass, and so I can only drive one
Right.
car at a time. I've only got so many places I need to go, and I need to be trying to drive the cars that I'm testing so I can
Yeah.
really have something interesting to say about them. So, you know, I have a day that I call Lamborghini Exercise Day, which you know, it's obviously driving your Countach is not anything close to resembling work, but it is the kind of thing that I have to schedule, you know, as and to make sure it's something that I do because it's good for the car to run it every week. I started with once a week. I figured out that really I can do it. Now that the car's had a pretty consistent year of being run regularly, I
Mhm.
can drive it every 2 weeks instead of every week. And it's perfectly happy with that. If I stretch it much beyond 2 weeks, it starts to feel a little creaky. It's got a real personality like that. But it's the kind of thing you got to schedule in, and it's the
Yeah.
kind of thing I need to make time for because I don't always have somewhere to go. You
Well,
know?
It's
I
definitely
had
something that a lot of folks with older cars don't consider. Like I know people that have older cars and they let them set for months at a time,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's worse for them than actually getting them out and driving them. It's like they come back to them and they're like, there's a leak here, there's a leak there, there's a hose
yeah.
that's cracked, there's belts. It's if you keep them running, that doesn't happen, man. I
Well,
totally.
the guy I bought the red car from, is a sweet guy, and he had a bunch of cars. I think he had 8 or 10 cars, a lot of cars. And on top of having that many cars, he was a really busy guy. He owned restaurants, and he'd have to go. It was multiple restaurants, and so every day he'd be driving around the city, laps to his restaurants. And
Yeah.
so, it's a 7 day a week business. The guy's busy, he's stressed, for even if he put 1,000 miles a year on each of those cars, 8,000 extra miles of driving a year, like, that's a lot. So he had this red car, and he put 1,000 miles on it in 10 years.
Wow.
And I saw his maintenance receipts, and I said, oh my God, well, if it cost him this much to not drive the car, how could I possibly do any worse by driving the car?
Right.
And
Right.
so I just started driving it, and that was I've made a few bets in my life that did not pay off, or that came back to bite me, or that were terrible ideas. But taking delivery of that car and then immediately beginning to drive it is one of the best ideas I've had. It's
Yeah, I've
worked out
heard a
beautifully.
lot of stories about it, and you definitely bought it right. I mean, my top is I had 12 cars at one point in time, and it got to the point where my ex-wife's coworkers would call us Euro white trash because we'd drive them and something would break, and then I'd let it sit, and then something
Yeah.
else would break. And eventually we ran out of cars, and then you've got to go back and start fixing them so they all would run again. And it was a collection of Saabs and Lotus and, pickup truck here and old Chrysler there and things like that. And it's amazing that even without working on them or taking them to a dealership, you've got to spend a day a month. I don't know how registration works in California, and it's a little bit different than in Alabama, but in Virginia, it was, the car, it was some car that needed a license plate every month. Some car, everybody, you needed to
Yeah.
make sure the insurances were current. You had to make
Yeah.
sure that everything was updated. And it just got to be too much, dang work. And I think at this point I'm down to 3, a Chrysler I don't drive, my boring Ford Fusion I drive because doing the self-employment thing, I paid off all my debt and got rid of my SHO and things last year. And she's got a heavily modified Cadillac ATS. So it's a
Cool.
decent set of toys, but
Yeah.
I had to go somewhere the other day and borrow her car because I didn't want to go in my Fusion. But
It's, I think a lot of the collector mentality is definitely strong with me, and the temptation, especially with my new building, there's a strong temptation to just amass a ridiculous number of cars just to say that I have them. And actually, when I had to sell a bunch of cars, it became very easy to buy a bunch of watches. Watches are, I don't know if you guys are into watches, but a watch is sort of like a car that you can wear into the bar.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and a lot of the same type of things that can be appealing about a car can be appealing about a watch, and then they're much easier to store. They take up a lot less space, and so I ended up with too many watches, and so now I've balanced it out. I personally have learned learned through my 30s that there's not a lot of point to having more of anything than you can reasonably use. So
Don't say that, because I'm beginning my watch collection, and the fiance is saying, "Why do you need?" And I'm not into the $multi-thousand, house price watches and things like that. I look at Crown and Caliber, and there's a plug for you.
Thank
And,
you. Thank you for plugging my sponsor. Shout out. I'll take it.
And shop. But we did an episode, and go back to talking about Ed earlier. They've been doing these. If you had $100,000 to spend or $5,000, and they did the stimulus check episode. So we copied that one and did that. And the best thing I came up with, and I was going to ask you, is a local jewelry store has a 65 Rolex 2-door stainless steel for $1,200. And I go, compared to every $1,200 car out there,
Yeah.
I think that might be a good way to start diving into that, even though it's really a Tudor, not a Rolex. But
if you have a smaller wrist, if your wrist is in the 6-inch range, I have an 8-inch wrist. I have a pretty big wrist, so
I'm very petite.
Okay, so if you have a smaller wrist, you're perfectly positioned to take advantage of the affordable vintage watches. And there are many affordable vintage watches. The thing about vintage watches is the fashion was smaller. So you're talking about 36 millimeter watches, and a 38 would be big. That would be quite small for a modern watch. What I'm wearing is 42, which is about the right size for my 8-inch wrist. If I were to wear a 38, it would look very silly. So yeah, if you have a smaller wrist, there are some really cool watches from all kinds of brands that didn't really survive the quartz crisis. And so, what we're talking about, stuff in the hundreds of dollars, not the thousands of dollars. So if you wanted to collect vintage Seiko, if you wanted to collect vintage, like Eberhard and Hamilton and stuff like that, Enicar, Ben Roos, stuff that didn't really survive the quartz crisis, there's a ton of that stuff out there. Yeah. Or you can buy one Rolex sport watch and wear it for the rest of your life and never need another watch for anything else. So that's another option too.
Yeah. Like I say, that's just what I came up with, and it's something I keep playing in. And I am a more petite, and I've got a buddy, used to restore cars with him at Barber's, that builds his own watches, buys the Swiss movement. He bought a Tormach mill, CNC mill, and makes titanium cases, and has every. I mean, he's serious.
Oh, that's cool. And, get a watch for your friend. I mean,
he does these huge things.
Customize,
He has does these huge things, and he's promised everybody a watch, but he's a little bit slow. He doesn't like a car restoration. It took 2 years to do your DeLorean. It takes him 2 years to do a watch.
Yeah. Well, my friend Cameron Weiss has a company called the Weiss Watch Company here in LA, and he's a watchmaker and does a fantastic job. And his watches are $1,000 to $3,000, and they are hand designed, hand manufactured, and hand assembled by him and his very small team in Los Angeles. So I cannot recommend a Weiss Watch Company watch enough. I've got one. It's beautiful.
And now I've got a lot of Google time to spend after the show. As I edit, I'm going to pull out some names. And,
you just cost John money. You don't even realize it yet. Without a doubt,
I'm a really expensive friend to have.
People have always accused me of being an enabler, and that's kind of what I get the feeling here, because we could get into cigars and all this other stuff. And I watched your most recent Westside Collector Car Storage walkthrough, and I love the Scotch and whiskey lockers you put in. That's a cool design, and you've got a lot of neat things there. And like I say, don't be surprised if I try to copy some of the stuff in the business I'm working with. I love the ideas, and I can't wait to see the humidor that you put in, because I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit more than just a standard mahogany wood unit. But
I'm going to disappoint you. It's going to be kind of standard. I'm not, I'm not a super cigar nerd. I like a cigar once in a while. I'm a former cigarette smoker. I smoked cigarettes for like 10 years. I quit in 2016. And so I never really was able to transition to an appreciation of cigars. I like weed a lot.
Well, you're in California for that one.
You can get it.
It's legal. Yeah, it's legal here. I don't. You know,
We
I don't.
can't get it here.
I'm not concerned about the legality. I was more concerned about your allegedly youthful audience being unduly
It's
influenced.
freaking legal, dude. Like
it is.
do
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
I get a little uptight about it sometimes, and I was at a.
You should smoke weed. It'll help. It'll help.
Yeah, my fiance is gonna love this episode. I was in a business the other day talking, and some guy came out of the back and said to the secretary, she goes, "You got my cookies?" He goes, "No, but I got a bag of weed." You don't know who I am. I dress like a DEA guy half the time, but
yeah, no, the humidor is going to be, well, it don't get me wrong, it'll be nice, but it's not a custom piece. It's going to be an off the rack piece. I didn't need to reinvent the wheel with the humidor thing. I'm hoping, that cigar room is going to be pretty cool room. I think it's interesting because you have to have that sort of stuff, the lounge and all that. I don't really anticipate it gets used very often. I didn't allocate a bunch of space to that, and I didn't take away any useful car storage space for it, because I've been to these other car storage type places that always have a lounge. It's so rarely being used for anything that but it is nice, and I'm happy that we have it, because it's gonna be cool for me and my friends.
How many square feet did you dedicate to it?
To the lounge?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not much. It's probably 25 by 25. It's not that big. It's not that big.
It's a decent sized room. You can get several people in there to hang out if you want to have an event or something like that. That's plenty big.
Well, there's seating in there for 7.
Yeah.
So it's fine. There was a specific code requirement for the upstairs.
I'm sure there was.
Yeah, there's an exact amount of square footage that if you go more than that, it's defined as a second story, whereas we kept it just under, which defines it legally as a mezzanine, and there's a different set of requirements for it. It's
in no way, shape, or form do we want to make you in any way relive the coding nightmare that you've gone through since 2015, sir.
I had hair when we started.
I can't believe the obstacles you've been up against. I mean, like I said, we're building out a similar thing here, and our lounge is elevated 20 by 20, so we're similar square footage there, even though our building's huge. But just the latest video and I come from, my family's been in durable medical equipment since the late 70s. And when you said something about the banking of the wheelchairs off the sidewalks, just because of that, and then all the repercussions that those 2 or 3 inches did, which you would have thought, to me, you would have thought somebody early on would have said, "Hey, wait a second," but that's not the way they work. Nobody, it's not even the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. The right index finger doesn't know what the right pinky's doing. It's
nobody told us until, a lot of these things are sort of surprises as they come up.
How long do you, maybe you don't want to even relive it, but how long do you think all the, code changes and the, repaving the alley and repaving the sidewalk and, the rainwater collection system, I can't believe. How long do you think that's delayed you? At least a year, 2 years in construction, or?
It's about 200 days.
200?
200 days of things that, delays that from not all of it was code changes. Some of it was weather, just this past weekend, I got super hosed. We were supposed to pave the alley behind the building over the weekend, and it rained like 1.5 inches on Saturday. So that, that got kicked to today. So, that's 3 days right there. So that kind of stuff happened a few times as well. Rain delays. Yeah. And look,
it doesn't lightly rain there.
And here's the thing: the codes and all this stuff is a super nightmare. But it's not just like, California's stupid liberals, blah, blah, blah. A lot of it, would happen in other states as well, other cities and other states. And my contractors who typically build hospitals, that's what they normally do, have talked about the similar issues happening from Texas to Missouri to Illinois to New York to wherever. And so it's not unique to Los Angeles, although our codes are very, very strict here. We have earthquakes and we have fires, and we are filling what is not a very big building with a lot of gasoline. And it's never been done before. I mean, no one's ever installed a 4-high quad in the San Andreas fault zone before, ever. No one's ever done it. And forget the fact that it's over a basement. So no one's ever done it in this part of the world. No one's ever done it over a basement. No one's ever done this many of them indoors. Now combine all of those, and like the fire department's like head explodes.
I literally never even thought about the fault aspect. And
yeah, bro, we get earthquakes here.
Yeah, no shit. I don't know why it never even entered into like, what did you have to do construction-wise?
Everything. I had to do everything.
Oh, the specs.
I just told you
what I meant. To shore up the 4-high. Like, how did you?
Oh, bro, we poured first off the concrete. So you want to go to nerd on concrete? So the whole building is full of number 18 rebar. Do you know what that is?
Big.
It's rebar. It's this thick. So the whole building, it weighs 25 pounds a foot. That's how heavy it is, and we've got miles of it. We poured 160 concrete trucks. It's a 14,000 square foot building. We put 160 trucks into 14,000 square feet. So the floor of the underground level, the basement, is 3 feet of solid pour.
You have a fallout shelter now.
Yes. And then the walls are 18 inches thick with double rebar, right? The above ground walls are 12-inch CMU block filled with rebar and grout. And then the lifts stand on 1.5-inch thick metal plates, which there's 2 of them spread 18 inches that spread through the 18-inch deck pour, and they have 9 pieces of number 18 rebar points. So that's at each pole. So if you think each lift has 4 poles and there's 18 lifts, and each pole has 9. So you think about how much rebar is going through the place. It's just extraordinary. I wonder.
Did you have to do any of those, like the Japanese high-rise, how they've got the earthquake where they can shake up to a certain amount?
No, they don't.
None of that.
No, they didn't do it like that. They don't do it. They don't do it with the rubber shape.
Yeah.
No, it's just more rebar, more concrete.
Just throw as much heft at it as you can.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find. I'm looking right now. Maybe if I don't know if one of you guys allows me permission to share my screen, I can find you a picture of the rebar.
You should probably just be able to do it.
Maybe, I don't know if the permissions. I haven't checked yet, but
it should let you. But
okay, hang on. Oh, wait.
Until you said that, man, I literally had never even thought about the ramifications of putting that stack.
Yeah.
Where you're putting it, and the possibility of a 6.0 plus.
Right.
That would do.
So here's
Holy
one.
crap.
Here's one of the ground level pour, right? And then I'll find where the deck pour was. It's a couple months later, and the deck pour was just the crazy rebar tying. So it's literally. I mean, I cannot imagine what a stronger building would be. I don't know how you could possibly build something stronger. Oh, here we go. Oh, here, this is a perfect.
NORAD may be stronger, but it's built inside a mountain.
No, look. So this is perfect. So here is what you see is when they're building the deck. You can see the grid of rebar, and then you see these things standing up. So the top plate on the things that are standing up are like that. That is the floor. So these rebar bits go through the rebar sandwich there, and yeah.
Is that where the the lifts sit on top of those, or
Yes, the lifts
Okay,
on top of those. Yeah.
Holy Jesus!
If any of the listeners really want to know, Matt's done 4 great or humorous or hair pulling videos
There's something
so far
equal parts funny and very
of
stressful
of this, facility and, Westside Collector Car Storage. And it's, like I say, we're doing a similar thing here in Birmingham to the listeners, and haven't said much about it, and we'll have about the same capacity, but I would have a feeling Matt's got as much money in rebar that exceeds our entire budget of retrofitting a building, and it's just
here's the rebar on the top, so coming out of the walls. So that's the number 18 rebar, 30 feet in the air coming out of the walls.
Dude, if shit hits the fan, I'm heading towards you.
Yeah,
I know
dude,
it's going to take me a while to get there, but
we're full on. Yeah, it's crazy.
literally, like if shit goes down.
See what I said about Sean?
My wife and I are loading up the car and rolling, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a little wild,
That's a military bunker.
Yeah,
probably stronger. These guys build hospitals, which is the strongest building that you can build because they often can't get people out in an emergency.
Right.
So we have look. It's not all voluntary,
It's
a snowball. It's like you have to do this, and so you have to do this, and so you have to do this, and so you have to do this, and it gets it gets kind of out of control after a while. And
that's again what the ex-wife does. Is she works for a major architectural firm and designs hospitals all over the world. Mm-hmm. And it's back when we were together, it was amazing some of the stuff she would come home and complain about, and the Seoul requires this, and this is stupid in Korea. And it's just I mean, we get the same thing. It's one reason I've never built a house, is I just don't want to deal with learning all the stuff that I've got to pay for.
Yeah, look, it's very stressful, but at the end of the day, cynically, the cost rolls down to the customer. I mean, I'm not charging an egregious amount of money, but the cost, the cost to store a car in that part of town in this type of building is proportional to the quality of the facility and the location of the facility and the services that we're offering. And so the good news is, from a real estate perspective, this is a land play, right? I wanted to have this business, right? That's very important. And the business is designed to make money. If we have over a certain percentage capacity, we'll make money and it'll be fine. But ultimately what we're doing is a long-term land play. And this is a primo piece of land. Google just built a 90,000 square foot office across the street. The Clippers play directly across the street. I can hit a 9-iron onto the roof of the Clippers building from my front driveway. And so, it's a primo project, and it's hopefully one of many in the future. Yeah,
those pictures you just showed us. Like if I were a collector and I was looking for a place in the LA area to put my F40 or my 250 GT, or insert a car worth millions and millions of dollars here, I would want you to show me the pictures that you just showed us, and basically be able to go, you're putting it inside a bunker. You're putting it
cool. We did these like James Bond halo lighting, which looks really nice. We have the finishing touches on it now, so it looks a little more, there's cats, hang on. It looks a little more finished. Here's the outside. It looks really nice with our buttery driveway and all that kind of stuff.
It's a building now.
In that picture you just showed, it's one of those things I didn't notice it until the first 5 or 6 times of seeing your building. I love the integrated F into the front of it.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
Yeah,
go back to that lift picture. That is insane, dude. So
that is what you're looking at. There is a block of 40 cars. So that's 5 wide, 2 deep, 4 high. So that's 40 cars there.
Holy crap!
And then this is looking back the other way towards like the cigar lounge or the windows above that that door there. And
this makes for compelling podcast. You guys have to tune into the video on this one. No, I mean I had to get you to show that again. That is the scale of that. Huh? Yeah, when you see it in the renders, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a render. But when you see it actually built, when you see it physically, it's like,
Oh yeah.
whoa, that's overwhelming.
Where do you see it with cars in there?
I can't
You know,
wait, dude.
it's very tall. It's it's like 40 feet tall, and so the top cars are like 35 feet in the air.
Have you ever been to just outside of Stuttgart? Have you ever been to the V8 Hotel in Meilenberg?
I drove by it. I did not go inside it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's cool.
We stayed there a couple years ago. They have a very similar classic car like storage facility inside that complex, and it's only a double stack. But
look, if the land was any more affordable, I wouldn't have had to do all this bullshit. Sorry. No, it makes sense because the land in this part of LA is so psychotically expensive that if you want to be there, I have to go vertical.
The sky above it doesn't cost as much as the dirt below it.
Right. Yeah. And we legally had to build a basement because we built to the property lines. So we had to build a parking lot underground. That's an LA law. You can't just build a building that goes to your property lines and then not have anywhere for people to park. So you need to have two quote street accessible parking spaces available from the street. Now they consider an underground parking level with a ramp. They consider that street accessible. That doesn't mean I'm required to keep it open for the public. I can sell those spots. I just have to build them. The reason being that if I one day decided to sell my building to someone else and they converted it from collector car storage to an office, you would need somewhere for those people to park. That's an LA regulation as well.
So. I forgot that you built this massive building that holds 140 cars or so.
Yeah,
and
130.
And you have 0 parking spaces.
Correct. I don't have 0. I have 4. I have 3 in the front and 1 in the back. I have one of the reasons that I can't do events and stuff like that is because I don't have any parking. Actually, yeah, that's true. And not only do I not have any parking on my property, there isn't a parking meter or a street spot within 300 yards of my building. There's none. So so events are out, but that's okay. We're doing the members only thing, and if you want to go to events, there's plenty of places to do that.
As somebody who used to work in a museum that dealt with events, it's one of my rules. The less general public you have to deal with, the better.
Yes, I understand. I used to run events as well, and I like going to events, and I like not being in charge of them. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. There was one thing I was going to roll into from there as we try to wind down the show. I know we've eaten up your afternoon, and
that's okay.
You've got some.
It's okay. I got like 10 minutes if you need, and then I got to cruise.
So, no, I can't remember. Oh, the one key cool thing to this building, and it's relevant to all of us. Your podcast studio. It looks pretty boring right now, just being a concrete shell. But Wait, give me 3 weeks on that. When will you start?
The studio's gonna be cool.
Can't wait to say the build out's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not gonna be that complicated. I don't know what people are expecting. It's going to be I've got a dude coming in named Jay Ryan who he has a podcast called Late Night Playset Podcast, and he is like a professional lighting designer for sets and stuff. And so we're not going to make it too crazy, but we are just going to make it look nice, make sure that the guests are well lit and look good and more. It's a soundproof room. I mean, it's hard to replicate with egg crates and stuff and curtains the true feel of walls that were built to be soundproof and air gap walls and soundproof glass and stuff like that. So it really starts by having a soundproof room, and I got a beautiful 4-inch thick black walnut table that you could drop a bowling ball on and you wouldn't hear it on the show. And then you probably can't see it, but maybe you got, if we look over there, that white box over there, that white box sitting over there, that box has all new Shure SM7Bs microphones, all new gold tipped cables, all the Joe Rogan stuff, everything we're going to be using. So like, hey, why does Joe Rogan's show sound better than everybody's? Because he uses $500 microphones. That's why.
That helps. That helps.
and he built a soundproof room. He has a very thick table, and he uses $500 microphones. That's the secret.
And
Now
he
we know the
signed. He
sauce.
signed a good deal with Spotify.
Yeah, good for him. He's gonna be buying some new cars. I think he's gonna be printing money. I don't know how much that deal is worth, but I bet it's a lot.
More than
I think,
$4.
you know, somebody who's played in
definitely more than $4.
podcasting for, you know, we've been doing this show for 3+ years, and I've been watching podcasting for 7 years. It's amazing because Sean and I have a business proposal we looked at last year about building some studio stuff, and that how not complicated it can be, because you're not building for, you know, Motley Crue again to come in and perform, but just to broadcast from spoken word. So much, it's not as complicated, and you can be really cool and very casual. And I mean, your present studio looks great, but when you get,
I hate our studio so much. Our studio that we're in now was supposed to be a temporary studio, you know, for like a year while I got the new building and studio ready. And here we are 5 years later, and we're still in there. Now, I shouldn't be so mean about it, because our landlord is very nice, and it's safe and quiet and out of the way, and there's places to park. And so it's fine. It's fine. But I hate it so much because for a variety of reasons. And I just, like, I've been podcasting for 10 years, and I've been like ready to be in this new studio for like 5 of them.
5? since you started building the new building?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But I get what I deserve. And I got, like, March and April, I totally panicked because I had bought all this very expensive podcast stuff, and then there's like coronavirus. I was like, oh, what did I do? I'm sorry. I just dropped an F-bomb again. I was like, oh, what did I do?
It's going to be okay.
It'll be fine. No,
we're going to be fine. We're going to get through it. Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Matt, thank you so much for taking the time, man. I appreciate it greatly. I know you got to wrap it up and leave. When we were talking about the Countach, there was one question that entered my brain, and I'm just curious, how has your carological clock evolved over the years? Is the Countach
the carological clock?
Carological clock? Yeah, it's the car person's equivalent to a biological clock. You know, it's. Like, I have a carological clock. It starts ticking about every 8 to 10 months, and I'm like, I need a new car.
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
Is the Lamborghini, is the Countach the end for you, as far as, like, if you had that car forever, you'd be happy with that car forever, and you don't need to go out and get another? Or are there still other things out there that give you that fizz that you need to acquire?
No, for sure. No, I mean, look, on one hand, like, yeah, Countach is kind of a game over car, right? There's you pretty much hit the end of the road when you get to something like that. On the other hand, it's not linear. You don't arrange all cars on a line of best to worst, and
totally
and so I think that there's all different kinds of experiences to be had, and all different kinds of cars that can provide them. And there's all different cars that I've liked for different reasons, that I've either driven on shows or whatever. And, oh man, one day I'd like to have one of those. And yeah, no, there's a bunch of cars that I'd like to have now. I think the difference between what I want now, what's on my list now, and what was on my list maybe a few years ago, is the level of customization is going down that I would do. With the Safari, which is obviously a highly customized build, it was still one package. It wasn't, let me make every decision along the way of what shocks do we use and what brakes do we use and what It was sort of like
what valving is inside there.
Right. Yeah. No, it was just like, here's money, make it pink.
Right.
The Countach, yeah. I mean, I think there's not a lot of cars out there that can really provide. I'll tell you what I've hit the end of. I've hit the end of the childhood poster cars, right? So
okay.
I think a lot of people, when they start collecting cars or they have one special car or whatever, it's either I want the newest, fastest, craziest thing, or I want to modify something to be that, or I'm going to buy the thing I wanted when I was a kid. And so from the DeLorean to my Fox body and now this Countach, I have bought all the things I wanted when I was a kid. And
so you
those,
acquired the justification for higher education poster that we all
yeah,
had?
yeah,
You've acquired
basically.
that, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. Totally. And I think that the Countach is the game over poster car, and so now I can check off all poster car from the box.
Okay.
And I don't need to chase poster cars anymore. And so there's definitely some stuff I would like to own for one reason or another. I'm definitely not done collecting cars. I love collecting cars, but I definitely don't ever want to be at a point where I have more than I can use. Then it just seems egregious.
Oh my God, you've grown up. We've
I know,
all
right?
grown up.
I
It's
know.
yeah, it's
Very sad.
this whole adulting thing. What the hell? Do we end the program on Matt Farah is turned into a proper adult? Do we end it on that, or is there anything crazy?
I've never heard an interview with him that ended like that.
I know, it's crazy. It's totally crazy.
I mean, I still have like 3 stupid cars. Like I still have 3 cars that by all accounts are stupid. That serve no practical purpose. They're 3 that are very silly things.
I think the Porsche serves all kinds of practical purposes. Are you kidding me?
You've got a car to drive in Armageddon. You've got a van to get materials home from the Home Depot. You've got
the van is actually going to be my airport shuttle for Westside. That's going to be
perfect
to drive people around. If I can, my wife's been driving it for a year and she really likes it, and so it's supposed to be. Hi, Pico. My cat just walked by. It's supposed to be the airport shuttle, but if I'm going to have to pry it from her hands, and I don't know if that's going to go well. She may get to keep it. If she decides she wants it, I'm going to have to find another airport shuttle.
Yeah, there you
go. The wife gets to be happy first.
I think
that is what we
need to end on.
That's what we need to end the show on. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate
for coming on, man.
Time.
We'll bring you back, and you can talk about how much you hate the brake-by-wire system that Alpha's using. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. I was using brake-by-wire in a BMW M6 the other day, and it was interesting. Or M8, excuse me. M8.
We'll save that for another time, man. Thank you so much.
I have a video coming out on it. You can check it
out. I checked out your Alpha, and I was like, but I like mine. So we'll get into that, dude. We'll get into that.
All right. Have a good afternoon.
We now return you to your Wednesday afternoon already in progress.
Bye.
Later,
man.